welcome back to the Toad Sessions. That was Sparrow in the Workshop. This is Toad Session. I think it's going to be something like number 26 or 7. But you guys, for historians of the Toad Sessions, of whom I'm sure there are many out there, you guys were something like the third, were you, or the fourth? It was something like that, wasn't it? One of the very first ones we ever did.
Yeah.
5 years. What's changed in 5 years? Unlike most bands that I know, you haven't had a lineup change. You're actually one of the most consistent, coherent bands. But you've done an awful lot since then, haven't you? You've released a couple of EPs, 3 albums, like singles, all sorts of things. You're not quite a fresh-faced young...
Oh.
That's true. And my voice has dropped.
And you did Texas guacamole this time, so you're obviously more jaded.
I brought olives, but they tasted very funny.
On SongbyToad Records, which is
Yay.
I'm pretty fucking pleased about, to be honest with you. But I'm not going to poke too much of this. But I remember, like, we recorded that first session and we saw you guys play live in Edinburgh the first time at the Liquid Rooms at the same time. And then we went out, and I can't even remember where we ended up, but I was quite drunk and I was just, if any ever want to release anything on our label, we'd love to do it. Take a long time for a band to figure out what they're trying to sound like, or were you guys a little bit greener because it was one of the first times you'd been the main songwriter and you were still trying to figure out what kind of a songwriter that you were? Or is this just a standard thing for all bands? It takes a good 6 to 8 months for you to just settle a little bit and figure out what kind of a band you want to be?
I think we probably just needed to settle. I think I was still learning how to write. But I think we just, you know,
a lot of the earlier sound was down to the fact that it was like that guitar, a lot less drums than this, and sometimes Nick would play bass.
Yeah.
I mean, the sound we've got now is much bigger, a lot due to the fact that we made it bigger.
You made deliberate choices as opposed to just picking up what was around.
Yeah.
You don't fit within what I would describe as an obvious scene within, particularly within Scottish music.
Yeah.
It's odd because the music you make isn't shocking or weird, but at the same time I find it quite difficult when I'm writing press releases to say, oh, what are they like? And it's like, well, I don't know, there's a little bit of just old-fashioned rock and roll in there, there's a little bit of punk in there, there's a little bit of folk in there, there's a little bit of this, that and the other. It's like you can list this long list of things that there's a bit of in there, but trying to explain to somebody what they're going to hear is quite difficult. Saying that one of the things about that affected you a little bit was perception. I remember saying that you're actually really quite a DIY band. Like you make all your own music videos. You've done dozens of them, have you not? And you do all your own press photos and all that kind of stuff. And you're actually very, very DIY. But you got to the point where you felt there was a sort of perception that you were a little bit more Swish than you felt as a group at some point.
I mean, particularly with kind of touring and stuff like that. I mean, it tends to be us three in a van, just driving around,
no guitar text,
booking
most of the time no sound engineer,
booking the hotels, kind of like figuring it all out and everything like that.
tying our own exhaust back on with Nick's shoelaces.
Oh,
Yeah, it's kind of.
Forgot about that. That was hilarious.
His shoelaces are still on the van.
Oh my god.
Did the reception for this album have an impact then on your opinion of yourselves as a band in terms of how much you were enjoying it, in terms of how much it felt like, yeah, this is a worthwhile thing to continue to do, or had you kind of already turned that corner just in the recording and making of the album, irrespective of what happened with it?
I think when we even started working on the new songs and rehearsing them, I mean, that started from a position where we didn't have to write an album, we didn't have to record one. You know, we made that decision to do that. You know, we weren't under any obligations and everything like that. And I think we'd all kind of like turned a certain corner where we were like, well, we're only going to do this if it's kind of fun and we enjoy kind of like playing.
The other thing that you mentioned earlier was your the various side projects you guys are all involved in. And I remember you did a really, really interesting interview actually with Glasgow Podcast a while back. I really enjoyed that one. And you were saying that kind of kept you sane at a period where you were kind of, well, not losing interest, but it had ceased to be fun.
Yeah.
And I take it, did you embark on all these side projects, then decide you were going back into recording an album first, or was it all happening at the same time and the side projects just gave you that extra kick of energy that you needed?
I think the second. I personally was just feeling really depressed, really, really bad. And music has always been a really good way of alleviating that. And yeah, and I have a lot of nervous energy. So for me personally, it was a way of just getting that energy out. And then also feeling reinvigorated to then write Sparrow stuff.